Okay, the next thing we need to do is figure out how to set up journal entries and quests and conversations, which is really what drives the story in this type of a game. So we're going to start by setting up a journal for a quest. Okay, we're going to go up to the Tools menu, and we're going to go to the Journal Editor. And we're going to click this button right here, which will add a new entry here. Okay, it says category 000, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the name of this to the name of our quest, and that's going to be Falstad's Quest. And for the tag, since this is a journal, we're going to be JT for journal tag _ Falstad. We're going to set the priority to highest, and I believe that just bumps it up to the top of your quest list if you have a bunch of different quests, but we're only going to have this one. And then for the experience points, the XP, we're going to put 2,000. And that should be enough for a starting character, level 1, to get to level 2 when the quest is completed. So this will be just kind of the very first quest that a character would go on. And in order to see that level up happen properly, you'll need to play this through with a level 1 character, obviously. Okay, when I click on Falstad's Quest up here and I click the Add button, I get entry 1, and these represent stages in the quest. And so we're going to have 3 stages here, so I'm going to add 2 more. And as I click on each one, then there's some things I can identify here. So this is the first stage, number 1, and I'm going to put some text in here. And the text is what shows up in the character's journal as they're playing through the level. Okay, the first of all, the quest here is that, let's see, the goblins have taken over the mine, and Falstad, who's the mayor, his son is missing. And he was one of the miners, I guess. And so you're going to need to go and try to find Falstad's son. Unfortunately, this quest doesn't turn out too good for Falstad's son, but here we go. The phase 1, the first stage of this quest, we're going to type in find Falstad's son Jason. And of course, since this is like a fantasy game, you can't spell Jason normally. You have to spell it with a C-E-N. In the Furnesk mine. Okay, on the second entry, we're going to say return Jason's ring to his father, Falstad. And then on the third entry, we're going to type in Jason's ring has been returned to Falstad, period. And we're going to check the finish category, which means that's where the quest gets ended. And once we reach stage 3 of this quest, the experience points will be rewarded and things like that. So we can click OK. And that quest is ready to go. Now, that quest can't happen on its own. We have to have a conversation that starts it, and different things happen to update it. This section gets a little complicated because it's going to require some scripting, some code writing. And at this stage, that's okay. I'm not going to take you through all the ins and outs of what we're writing and why. It'll be kind of obvious how things flow, but it's a C-style programming language, and we're going to spend some time on it. After we're done with this tutorial, we're going to spend some time working on the language and how to write that kind of code. But for now, we're just going to use mostly the script wizard, which will do most of that automatically and kind of at a low level, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But if you're typing in the code and it kind of seems like, man, I don't even know what this is doing, that's okay for this one. We'll learn more about that in a different tutorial. Okay, so to get this going, we need conversations. And we're going to go over here to our custom palette for, click on the paint monsters, custom, go to NPCs. I'm sorry, that's not right. Special. And custom 2, and go to false data, and we're going to choose edit. And what you'll see on the basic tab is that there is a place for a conversation, but there isn't one in there right now. So we're going to click edit, and that's going to open up this conversation editor, and it's currently empty. But one important thing to keep in mind is that this conversation, since we're creating this on Falstad, is attached to him. And this is the conversation that runs when you try to talk to this character. And that's where it comes from. Okay, up here under root, we're going to click on the add button. Works just like the journal editor. So I'm going to click add. And what this is the very first time that you right click on an NPC to initiate conversation, this is what the NPC is going to say. And we're going to go back and forth between what the NPC says and what the player character says in response. And you can give your characters different choices. If you've ever played a BioWare game, this is how their games work. So you talk to somebody, they say something, and then you get a choice of between 1 and 4, 5 options of how to respond. And if you play through the conversation long enough, usually it loops around, and so you're able to get to all the information. But that's their style, I guess. Okay, so we're going to type into this first response here, hello again. Whoops, man, I can't spell. Hello again. And then we're going to use this little less than sign, and we're going to type in first name, capital F, capital N, and then a greater than sign. So we got these little angled brackets, I'll call them. So hello again, first name. Have you learned anything about the mine? All right, we'll click OK. Now, you might be wondering, if this is the first time that they respond, why are we saying hello again? Well, we're going to set some parameters on this so that this only shows up under certain conditions, and we'll move this around. But these conversations you'll see have to kind of flow in a backwards format sometimes, and it's because of the way that the computer checks for true and false values, and we'll get into that. Okay, the word first name placed inside these angled brackets is called a token, and there's a number of different tokens, but this one replaces the text with the player character's first name. So if your character's first name is Sammy, it's going to say hello again, Sammy, and that's how you can direct your question to the player character. Here, this little red button down here, insert token. If I click on that, you can see a list of the different tokens that you can use. So for example, let's see, we could say, okay, you got one for alignment, and so you can say, oh, well, you look like a, and then put the alignment token in there, and then say character, and it comes out in the game like, oh, you look like a good character or a neutral character. I don't know why you'd ever say that in a game, but that's the idea. So cancel that. But you can look through that list. Okay, let's get moving here. Okay, we're going to select this node. These are called nodes of conversation. So I'm going to click the first one here that we added, and I'm going to add something to that one and see how it's going to step down a level down. And this is what the player says next. So Falstad would say, hello again, so-and-so. Have you learned anything about the mine? And then the player is going to have an option. And this time we're going to type in the positive response, which is yes, I have learned something about this. Yes. The mine had been invaded by some goblins, and they were using the miners as slave laborers. The goblins were defeated, but unfortunately, Jason was one of their victims. Okay, poor Jason. Let's see. This ring was found on his body. Okay, there's a lot of typing here. pause the video and take the time to type in all the text, okay? I'm going to move kind of quickly. And obviously we're learning more about the story as we code this in, but you're going to find a ring on Jason's body. You're going to return that to Falstad, and that will signal the end of the quest. Click OK. Now that's a positive response, but it's possible that the player doesn't know anything yet, so we need a negative response. So I'm going to click on this again, not this one. I'm going to click on this one and hit add, and then we can add the negative option. So what I'm doing is I'm adding possible responses to this node. If I had clicked here on the yes and then added a response, it would have been Falstad's response to you from that, okay? So, oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing this backwards. We do want to click on yes, and we want to give him a node to respond. So this is what Falstad says. And Falstad says, thank you for your service to Fern, but ... my poor son, ! Okay, so Falstad is grieving. And then we're just going to jump through. I'm going to enter a bunch of these, and you'll see which nodes they go to. So now I'm going to click back on this node and give a second alternative. Also, if you get too many responses out here, you can click these plus and minus signs to shrink things up. But I'm going to click on the first one and add, and this is the player's no response. No, not yet. Okay, and so now when you see this, you'll have two options, yes or no. If you say yes, you'll get this back from Falstad. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, after the no response, Falstad's going to tell you what you should do next if you haven't learned anything about the mine. So we're going to click the add button, and Falstad will say, you should probably speak with Varan over by his shop. He's looking for people to form an expedition into the mine. I would be very grateful if you would help him locate my son. All right, so you can see how this works. If you find out information about the mine, you say yes and you return the ring, and that's the end. Or if you don't know anything about the mine yet, he gives you kind of a helpful hint to get you on your way in the quest. Okay, next we're going to close these up. So I can click those and collapse them and collapse that one. And this is a weird greeting for the very first time you talk to someone. Obviously, he says he's seen you before. He says hello again. You'll see why in a minute. But right now, we're going to add the initial response. The first time you meet him, he has to respond with an introduction. So I'm going to click on root and add another one. And here's what we'll say. Welcome, ! I am Falstad, Mayor of Fern. Is there anything I can do for you? Friendly guy. Click OK. All right, so there's the other response. We're going to add a response for the player from this one. And the player will say, hello, I am first name. Whoops. I understand you need escorts for an iron shipment that is leaving for whatever castle, Hyatt Castle, in the morning. And I spelled some stuff wrong here. Okay, hello, I am, first name. I understand you need escorts for an iron shipment that is leaving for Hyatt Castle in the morning. Click OK. And then after this one, we're going to add another response from Falstad. And Falstad says, yes, the caravan. You see, The shipment is not ready yet. The miners, including my son, Jason, seem to have disappeared. Okay, and then after Falstad says this, we're going to click and add a node, and we're going to do nothing. Just click OK. We'll delete that text there, but it wouldn't have shown up anyway. But click OK. And there it says end dialogue. And so that's how you end one of these conversations. If you just enter a response from the player with no text, it's going to give the player the end dialogue link. And so that's how you can get out of these conversations. Okay, so here's what we want to do. At this point, if this is the first time that he's been talked to, we want to tell him what he should do next. And so we want to tell him he should talk to Varan about, this expedition or whatever. But we've already written a line like that, and that is up here. And after no, not yet, it says you should probably speak to Varan. So what we can do is we can actually, instead of adding another node that's exactly the same as this one or similar, we can link this one. And so after they get to this one, they can return up to this one. Here's how we do that. We're going to click on you should probably, all right? And we're going to right click and choose copy. And then we're going to go to the last link, right click, and we're going to choose paste as link. And when we paste as a link, we get a continue instead of an end dialogue. And so you get there, he says, Jason seems to have disappeared. Continue. And then we jump actually up to number 5. You can see it's kind of grayed out, but it goes up here. You should probably speak to Varan by a shop. And at that point, we're never going to see this text again. We're going to always come up and do this one, and we'll set that up next. We're going to save this script, so click the save button right here. And we're going to save it as Falstad, all lowercase. And it's automatically set to go to the right resources folder, so don't try to find a different place for it, but just click save. And that has been saved and attached to Falstad. And let's jump into the game and test that out. I'm going to close this. And you can see that his conversation is set to Falstad. So I will test the game. Oh, you know why that didn't happen? We didn't update the instances. The Falstad that's out there doesn't have the journal conversation. So let me go here and right click on Falstad and say update instances. All instances. No, I don't need a list. Okay, it's updated. Let's try that again. And here we go. So, hello again, AAA. Remember we named this guy that. Have you learned anything about the mine? Yes, it's been invaded by goblins. No, not yet. And okay, now you're wondering why doesn't it go to that first time greeting? Well, we have to set that up with a scripting wizard. So we'll do that next. Okay, to make some of these things work properly, you have to use some scripting, and you could write them all by hand, but you need to know a little bit about how the program works and how to write code properly, and it's difficult. So fortunately, there's a scripting wizard that we can use that shows up in the conversation editor and some other places, and that is the way that we'll do this. So we're going to go to the conversations item in our left-hand panel here, and you can see Falstad. So this is another way to get into the conversation without actually opening up the character or editing it over here. You can just go double-click that, and it pops open the conversation editor. Okay. Down here in the right corner is the script wizard that works with the conversations, and you'll see some commonly used presets here. So text appears when. In other words, we don't want this text on whatever line you're selecting to show up all the time. We only want it if a certain condition's been met. If the person owns a certain item, or if a quest has been completed, or something like that. Actions taken. On a certain conversation, you can make things happen in the game, like you can give experience, or you can give a reward or an item, or you can set the quest number to a second stage or a third stage or whatever. These all require the use of the actions taken script. And there's some other things here, but we're going to go with a couple examples of each here. Okay, we're going to select the hello again, this very first node that we added. And on the text appears when tab, we're going to click this wizard hat button, and that opens the script wizard. Okay, what conditions do you want to test for? And we want to test for a local variable, which we're going to create here. Similar to GameMaker, you can create a variable that exists that you can test to see if it's true or false and things like that. So we'll check local variable. Click next. It's going to be an int value, and we're going to give it a name in this box, and the name is n first time talked. And the lowercase n tells us this is a number, okay? And we're going to see if it is equal to, and we're going to put the number 1 right there. We're going to click the word add, which will add this line of code to our list here. Get local int, get PC speaker, first time talked equals 1. What it's asking is, is this local variable equal to 1? And if so, then it's going to display this text. We'll click next. And the way it works is this variable by default will be set to 0, but at some point we're going to switch it to 1, and then we'll start seeing this other conversation from Falstad. So click next. And the script name here, we're going to go with SC underscore Falstad 01 is what we use, and that SC script thing there, SC underscore Falstad 01, and click finish. Okay, next we're going to go to the 7th node, which is the one that says, welcome, I am Falstad. And what we just set up here was that this line here, hello again, first name, will not show up until the first time talked variable has been changed to 1. So when we actually talk to him, it's going to look at this line and it's going to skip it because that variable is going to be 0. And it's going to read this one. And we're going to go through this tree, conversation tree. And then when we do this one, we're going to change that variable to 1, which means that the next time we talk to him, it'll go to this one. Okay? That's why we have to list this one first. Okay, so on this one, we're going to go to actions taken and click the wizard. And we're going to set local variables. Click next. And the local variable is n first time talked. And you have to spell it right, otherwise it won't know what variable you're talking about. And we're going to set it to 1. Click add. Because by default, when it's created, it's a 0. And so it gets set to 1 when we tell it to change. This top one tests to see if it is 1. This one actually sets it to 1. So we'll go next. And we'll call this one, AT stands for actions taken. And again, underscore Falstad 01, and click finish. Okay, we're going to go to node number 2, which says yes, the mine has been invaded. Click on that node. And we shouldn't see this one until you've actually been in the mine and found the ring. Because if you haven't found the ring yet, we don't want Falstad talking about, or you don't want to see this option. So if the player hasn't been in the mine and then he talks to Falstad and then says, oh, I have this ring here from his body, well, that gives the whole story away, and how would he know about that ring anyway? So we need to hide this until the player actually has the ring in the inventory. And we haven't created the ring yet as an item. We'll do that later, but we'll set up the script for it. Go back to the text appears when, click on the wizard, and we're going to look for item in inventory. Click next. And we're going to enter a new tag. This ring doesn't exist yet, but we're going to call it IT for item tag underscore ring JSON. And we'll add that to the list. Okay, so that's how you control whether or not somebody says something if a player has items. You'll probably need to use that in the future. Click next, and we'll call this one SC Falstad 02 and finish. Okay, on that same node, we also need to do an actions taken. And that means if the player does get to see this because they have the ring, we need to remove that ring at this time and give it to Falstad or make it disappear. So click on this and we'll do an actions taken. Click the wizard. We want to take from the player. And we want to take an item by tag, and so we'll go IT underscore ring JSON. Add that, and we'll destroy it. And that will get rid of it and take care of the problem. Click next. We'll call this one AT Falstad 02. Actually, let's go back here. Let's keep it. That means it gets transferred into Falstad's inventory. And so if for some reason you were to go and kill Falstad, you could actually recover the ring again. That's how it works. So let's go ahead and keep it and click next and save it as AT Falstad 02. Click finish. Okay, I'm going to save this script. I'm going to close that. We're going to test this again, and this time when I talk to Falstad, I should get the proper first-time greeting. So let's see. Hey, there it is, the very first time. Hello, I am so-and-so. I understand you need escorts. So this is what Falstad says up here. Welcome, I'm Falstad, Mayor Fern. And then here's the player's response, okay? And so, yes, the caravan. My son Jason seems to have disappeared. So click continue. You should probably speak with Varan over by his shop. Varan's over here. Etc. Click end dialogue. Now if I talk to him again, it says hello again. Have you learned anything about the mine? And I say no, not yet. Notice I don't have the option of saying yes because I don't own the ring yet. So that's hidden from the player. I say no, you should probably speak with Varan, and then end dialogue. Pretty slick. Okay. The next thing we have to do is attach some journal entries to this. Let's open up Falstad's conversation again. Let's right click. Actually, you can just double click on that and it'll pop open. And we're going to go down to the node that says you should probably, okay? You should probably speak with Varan. When the player sees this, we want to trigger the quest. That's the key to launching off on the mission. So if you jump down here to the Other Actions tab, you can see there's a spot for journal, and we can choose Falstad's quest, and we can choose stage 1, 2, or 3, and we're going to choose 1. And so what that means is when this gets seen by the player, the quest gets updated. Now in this conversation, we also have the end of the quest, right? And that's where, thank you for your service to Fern, but my poor son, that one is the end of the quest. So we're going to click on that and Other Actions, Journal, Falstad's quest, and change that one to 3. And we'll handle stage 2 in just a minute, but that's where those go to. So we can click done with this one and save it. Okay, to do the second part of that quest, let's go ahead and we're going to talk to Varan over here. We're going to set up a conversation with him. Actually, the second phase of that quest doesn't get triggered until you get all the way inside the mine and you find Jason's ring. And when you find it, you pick it up, then the second part of the quest starts. But we have to handle that with a special kind of script, and we'll do that in a little bit. So let's move on to our conversation with Varan. And so we will open up custom one over here. We'll go to Varan and choose edit and edit the conversation spot. And here's what we will do. We'll add a initial response here. And he says, greetings, I am Varan. I manage the local iron mine and own Varan's Mercantile, which is another name for a store. You'll not find better prices anywhere, I might add. Click OK. And click on that one. We'll add a response to that for the player. The player says, hello, Varan. Whoa. Hello, Varan. I am first name. Falstad suggested that you could use some help with an expedition to locate the missing miners. Okay. Click on that link. We'll add a response for Varan. And Varan says, poor Falstad. His own son, Jason, is one of the missing miners. If you're willing to help, I can offer you a great deal on anything in the store. Would you like to see what I have for sale? And at that, the player should have the opportunity to say yes or no. So we'll add a response that says, yes, please. And keep clicking on poor Falstad and add a second response, which is no, thank you. All right. We are going to add in, this is, let's see, let's name this. We'll save it. We'll call it Varan and save. This conversation is just going to be for show. We won't open up the mercantile and let you buy and sell items. We'll do that a little bit later, but this conversation will now work. So we can save that, close it, and if you test it out, we should be able to start our quest with Falstad and also have a short conversation with Varan. I will talk to Falstad and continue. And if you heard that little noise there, it says your journal has been updated, Falstad's quest. So as soon as Falstad said you should speak with Varan, find out if you can help or whatever, the quest started in dialogue. If I now go to my quest journal, which is glowing over here, I can see Falstad's quest, and if I click on that, I get my first entry, find Falstad's son Jason in the Furnace mine. Okay, so that is a pretty slick system. I can talk to Varan. Oh, we didn't save his instances, so you can do that, and this conversation will work just fine. But that is it for journals and conversations. Up next, we will do some items and inventory.